This episode of Gundam at MAHQ is brought to you by Petco. If you have pets and you'd like to give them the very best, head over to petco.com. And for any purchases that are $65 or more, you can save 10% off your purchase and also receive free shipping if you use the code Gundam or if you go to petco.com/Gundam. For any purchases that are under $65, you can save 10% just by going to petco.com/Gundam10, or you can use the code Gundam10 during your purchase. Like me, the majority of you guys out there have pets. Well, if you're looking for food, supplies, and even treats and toys for your pets, the best place to go is Petco.
You got it. Hey, take care of them for me. Gundam.
Damn!
All right, everybody, this is a little quickie edition of Gundam. It's actually a little Gundam on location. Myself, Neo, and Solbro here. Let's give a shout-out, Solbro.
What is up, gang?
We're at the 2008 Comic-Con that's in San Diego, and we're just going to do a quick little 10-15-minute thing of what we saw today and some of the things that we were able to get, and just some of our impressions. So today was the opening day of the con, July 24th today, and a lot of stuff was going on, very crowded. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the stuff on some of the TV stations and some of the websites out there. But some of the things that we got to see today was probably the one thing that we did immediately when we got there was a limited edition Gundam Fixation clear coat edition, actually a clear edition of the RX-78-2, which myself and Solbro got, standing in line for, about 45 minutes there, Solbro?
It wasn't as long as I thought it would be.
It was actually a booth that was Bandai and Toyama, and they had a lot of cool stuff. We put up some pictures on the blog spot earlier today, so definitely go to Gundam.net to take a look at that. They have a whole facet of new figures in there, everything from Macross to actual Robotech to Gundam to Bleach and Naruto and One Piece and figures like Bruce Lee and Indiana Jones and Jack Sparrow. So we got a lot of cool pics there, and we'll probably get some more later on because I don't think we got everything. So definitely take a look at that. Some other cool things that we got to see, anime and manga related. All the manga publishers are out there in full force. CMX, Viz, who else was there? Manga Media was there.
Manga Entertainment was there, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't see too much on anything from the mech side, but that's kind of to be expected at times now. We were able to go to a good panel, and we got a recording of it. We'll be posting it probably when we get back to Florida. It was a manga panel. It had a lot of translators and editors from the various manga publications, and it was pretty informative. Not too much with Mecha related in there, with the exception of Mark Simmons being on the panel. Everybody knows him from his Ultimate Mark websites and
the Gundam project a couple years ago, which really implemented him into the Gundam production of Gundam in the United States.
So what actually segues into the other quick little thing that we got. We were able to sit down with him after the panel and ask him a couple questions about 00. It's a little informal, so we'll be posting it up shortly too. But unfortunately, while we were speaking to him, we were unable to get into the Bandai panel, which had a big thing, which was very crowded, and it had a lot of stuff dealing with Gurren Lagann, Code Geass, and some other shows that Bandai is going to be putting out. But we were able to get the recording of the Robotech, not Macross, but Robotech panel. And it was actually a very good panel because they went through kind of the whole history of Robotech, and they did enough nods to the original show. And yes, there was a question and answer period on there, and there were some pretty good questions that were asked. And they talked a lot about the new live-action movie that's going to be coming out, not doing too many spoilers, but just kind of giving us the basis of who's involved, and that was quite interesting. So we'll be posting that out. There was also a lot of stuff with games. I know, Mecha's not everything that we enjoy, but there's a lot of cool stuff there. Got to see the Street Fighter 4 arcade game. Unfortunately, couldn't take any pictures of it, but it was definitely very impressive. So any of the guys out there interested in fighting games, I know Soulbro is going to try to play it later on this week.
Oh, yeah,
so,
there's no question. I won't be able to live it down if I leave Comic-Con and don't get to play that game.
But a lot of cool stuff. A lot of stuff from Konami, Castlevania. I'm sure there's lots of Castlevania fans out there.
They have the new DS game on demo also.
The new DS game and the fighting game are going to be there.
I saw that too.
A lot of cool stuff from Bandai Namco. The new Naruto game, Ultimate Storm. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
The Afro Samurai game looked awesome too. And what else was there? There was just a lot of little different things. There's going to be some more stuff going out. The sci-fi booth was there. Unfortunately, we didn't see anything stating with anime, either with Gurren Lagann coming on or Double O, but that doesn't mean that they won't be showing anything or pushing that later on this week. So,
well, at the Bandai booth, they had all that Code Geass merchandise.
Yeah, they had a lot of Code Geass stuff. We got some pictures of that, so there's definitely going to be a lot of stuff that for people to take a look at. But other than that, other than the fact that I bought like about 4 models, and I'll probably be buying some more for some folks back home and probably for myself, because I found a place that I purchased some last year, and the guys got some pretty good deals. But Soulbro, anything out there that was kind of impressive to you, or anything that stood out? Might want to tell the folks real quick.
Well, I just noticed that the Bandai booth is shared with other companies, so I didn't really get to see much when it came to merchandise for Gurren Lagann. I don't know if there is going to be any merchandise for that show, but
there were some Gurren Lagann merchandise, and there's also some Gurren Lagann models.
Really?
They're very small, but
Wow.
the ones that I've seen, I haven't seen the show, but I've seen the mechs, and all mechs were represented. So
Nice.
I'm sure there's going to be some more.
I did see the I did see the Code Geass stuff, and I did like the Toonami stuff that they have coming out with all the Robotech and Macross Mecha that they're going to have figures of. I mean, I didn't even see at the time when I was down there the Cyclones from Robotech, the new generation, which are those transforming motorbikes that, unless you're not familiar with it, those things were the coolest things when you were growing up, and now they actually have fully posable and transformable toys of them, along with the figure of the character on each one. Well, they showed them during the Robotech panel, and I freaked out. I really want one of those. They showed Rand. I want Brooke Bartley, although I don't know if I'll be able to find her here, but that was really neat. And the fact that they have so much more on just getting ready to come out, that and of different sizes and whatnot. It's exciting. As a collector, I'm ready to go with that.
Well, I will tell you this. I know from last year that, and I was telling you this earlier today, is that just don't go buy everything that's out there today.
Yeah.
So they may be putting some more stuff out. But
I'm too broke for that anyway. So,
but
no, it's cool.
Anything else?
Of note, I mean, you would pretty much went over almost everything we did. I really enjoyed the Manga Translator panel, and talking to Mark, that was really fun.
Yeah, so basically on my end, just seeing that there is kind of a push, especially in print, some more media from manga. Like I said, not too much on the mech side, but there are a lot of new interesting titles. I know that there's going to be some other panels that we're going to try to get into later on this week, and that might be of interest to you guys. Most of it's not really going to be too much mech related, but it's good stuff to know anyways. And like we said, we're going to be posting some of those panels up later, and we won't be doing that till we get back because we've got them all recorded. We're going to put them down, but try to figure out how we want to lay all that out. But we're going to get going on this. We're just making this a short little thing for you guys. Definitely post up some comments or questions on the Mecha Talk boards. We're actually been checking them while we're there, and we actually check Gundam.net because we're actually doing some blogs and uploading some pictures. So
yeah,
we got some stuff up there, so you guys take a look at it. So,
and V2 Buster, we will be getting some con chicks for you. Don't worry, we'll get them on film.
We'll try to see. Hopefully tomorrow's crop will be a lot better than today's.
Hey,
but
Saturday's the big day for that one.
Yeah, let's hope. But for Solbro, this is Neo, and we're going to be signing off, and we will be back tomorrow with another one of these little impromptu 10-minute little podcasts here. So you guys check out everything, and if there's anything else, any other questions, hit us up on Gundam, on the Mecha Talk forums under Gundam, and you can also do Gundam at MAHQ, or Gundam MAHQ at gmail.com. So we'll see you guys tomorrow, and thanks. Bye.
Peace.
You're driving along, and all of a sudden the kids are yelling from the back seat, I gotta go to the bathroom, Daddy. Not now, gun damn it. Did you order the code red? Gun damn right I did.
Welcome back to Gundam at MAHQ. For our first panel segment, we attended the Manga Lost in Translation panel on our first day at Comic-Con that Thursday, and on the panel there were several different people who work in the manga industry, and they went into their experiences with just translating manga and what the audience has been looking for, and just a whole lot of interesting information that some of which we didn't know about. On the panel were William Flanagan, Jonathan Tarbox, Mari Morimoto, Jason Thompson, Stephen Paul, Mark Simmons, and Julie Davis. And here's the segment. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lost in Translation panel. This is somewhere around the 10th year that we've been doing this panel, and this is absolutely the first time we've done a full house. So, thank you, everybody. Before, we were doing things like a late Friday night and early Sunday morning, so, we could understand it. But, again, thanks so much, everybody. What we do here is basically question and answer. We're pretty freeform. We don't have any, movies to show you or anything like that, sorry. But we're here to, answer your questions about how things are translated. Our panel is mostly made up of manga and a few anime translators, editors, specialists, that sort of thing. And let's go ahead with that sort of thing. Sorry. Let's go ahead and pass the mic all the way down to Julie, and begin with the introduction of ourselves so you know a little bit about who we are.
Hi, my name is Julie Davis, and I'm not actually sure why I'm here because I'm not a translator. I'm an editor, but I've been working with translating material for a while. I used to work on a magazine called In America. Before that, some people may see a magazine called Runback, which is really reaching back to the age of the 90s with Japanese animation. Fanzine, professional fanzine, hello, professional magazine that was started as a fanzine going professional. Tell me about it. But so we're working with translators, interviews, articles on Japanese animation comics, and then I work with this as a magazine editor, manga editor. I work on that in Russia. That's my credit card. Lately, I've been working a bit with the Stonebridge Press. Most recently on this book, Anime Classics That Time, and that's my story. On to Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark. I guess I would be the specialist that they'll refer to. My main credit is I actually work with Bandai Entertainment on adapting all the various Gundam animation. And I worked, I guess, a little bit doing rewrites on the Gundam comics is published. One of which I think I worked on with Bill, and it was 79 back in the day. But otherwise, I mostly work on anime adaptations, video games, toy packaging, all kind of brand management side of things, setting terminology. So, kind of a different side of things, but maybe I'll have some fun anecdotes.
My name is Stephen Paul, and I have worked with several different manga publishers to translate. and I've done, first I've worked with Tokyo Pop, I've done Dex, I've worked on Samurai Deeper Kyo, and I'm currently working on 2 titles in the Yen Press magazine called Yen Plus. Those titles are Angu Blade and Momo. I'm also not a translator. We should have actually had a contest to see if you could point out who is a translator and who is not. From this point on, it's all translators. Like, cluster real in. I'm Jason Thompson. I'm the author of Manga, The Complete Guide. And I also write for Talk for USA magazine, and I edit a bunch of manga. And I've worked in the manga industry for a long time, even though actually I'm not a translator at all. And so I should hang my head in shame. But I'll just pass it on to an actual translator over here.
Jason is way too kind. My name is Mari Morimoto, and I am a translator and recently added the title of rewriter. I've been with, I'm freelance, but I've been with Viz for about 15 years now. Started out with Mecha Koku, then went on to things like Dragon Ball. I currently translate Naruto, Inuyasha, and last but not least, Knights of the Zodiac. Any Saint Seiya fans out there? And about 2 years ago, I started working on a title called Dragon Eye by Kairi Fujiyama for Del Rey Manga. I also do, I'm glad there are some people who are reading it. It's the best title that's out there, they happen to be reading. But I also do interpreter work at various conventions, most recently at New York Comic Con with TM Revolution. But I'm from New York, and I've worked with a lot of Northeast conventions. And then finally, I've been doing translation-related panels at a lot of conventions as well.
My name is Dave Tarbox, and I know how to project. I got my start in the anime business with the glorious failure of Rising Comics, if anybody's old enough to remember that. It wasn't that long ago. I'm a manga editor, manga translator, jack of various trades. Still. Jonathan of various trades.
Hi, I'm Bill Flanagan. I started translating professionally back in 1991 for a fly-by-night company called Sun Comics, and I'm sure nobody but Jason knows that. Really? Hey?
That's you.
My first comic was held up by Torrin Smith as a way not to translate comics. Everybody goes through that phase. That's what everybody tells me anyway. So from 1991, I've been doing manga pretty continuously. At the same time, I was doing translations for CPM, Manga Entertainment, and Viz, doing a bunch of their anime translations, mostly subtitles, with a group called Studio Nemo. After that, I was hired by Viz as an editor, and worked on translated Pokemon, and all of the American extra titles like Fushigi Yugi, Video Girl Line, did some translations up through about the early stuff for, boy, I'm blanking here, for Green, Heroes Greenwood. After that, I started doing translations for Del Rey, and right now I'm doing titles like Fairy Tale, Tsubasa, Pollock, So that takes care of the introductions.
Thanks very much for coming.
What would probably be easiest is anybody who has a question is to line up in front here, and you can ask your question, and we'll answer it. I'd love to do hands raised before a full house. It's hard to see everybody who has their hands raised and who gets it on first.
Anything else? Right.
So does anybody have a question? Great. Come on.
American raised. And I kind of grew up reading manga and watching anime as I grew up. In New York, there was a channel back then that showed things, and we still like Kinokuniya and other Japanese bookstores even back in the 70s when I was growing up. But I actually got to college, and it turns out it was very much a providential being in the right place at the right time when my college advisor was actually the former thesis advisor for Matt Thorne, who's one of the early giants of translating manga. He worked with Viz and with several other folks, I think. And when he went off to work on his thesis in Japan, they needed some people to take over some of the titles he had been working on for Viz, and that's kind of how I got my start. So I kind of grew up always loving manga and anime and always wondering if there was a place in it for me here in the U.S., because at the time and now I hadn't really anticipated ever working in Japan, and my drawing sucks. So I knew I couldn't become a mangaka, but I wanted to work in the manga industry, and fortunately I found a nice way to get my foot in the door.
My start in the manga industry is very natural. I worked for the NFL. They headhunted me to start writing comics, and then when this large American company that shall remain nameless, which was a very good company, but when they were supposed to do all the translation and production work and the relationship fell through, as businesses are wont to do, then all of a sudden the international communications director became the editor-in-chief.
I started getting into, I started getting into anime and manga somewhere around 1984, just before Robotech came out, so I'm a sort of Robotech generation. Thanks. And my knees were never very good, so I figured I needed a job that I was working at 7-Eleven and figured I needed a job where I could sit down. So I decided to go learn Japanese and go into translation. The way to get started in the business was, again, just an accident. I was at a convention where where some questioners were sort of hijacking the panel. And I raised my hand and asked a nice question that I knew the panelists could answer quickly and easily and change the subject. And afterwards I talked to one of the people on the panel, and she turned out to be Raymond Feast's wife. And she introduced me to Raymond Feast, and Raymond Feast made a recommendation to Torrance Smith. And Torrance Smith couldn't hire me, but he knew somebody was looking for talent at the time, so I was hired about that time, and that's how I got started in the industry, by asking a nice question.
I actually got started studying Japanese when I was in junior high, and I actually did not, it wasn't because I was interested in anime or manga or anything like that. It was an odd, interesting lesson to take at the time. And after I started learning and I got really interested in it, I was looking for ways that I could learn faster and more directly than through textbooks and lessons. And so I found out that there was a Japanese bookstore in the area, and I bought some manga. I tried to start translating it by myself, and I just kept doing it over and over and over again. And I kept getting better and better until I finally someone that I knew on the internet who was an employee at Pokemon said, well, why don't you send a resume to my editor? And so that's how I got in. And that was years ago, but I managed to branch out and get work with several companies.
Anybody else? As translators, I'd like to comment on the translation skills or whatever else the class might have when they were in a contemporary system. Airship, yeah, from Pokemon. Any thoughts or opinions on how he does his job, or any thoughts about how he portrays translators, how the translator does? Anything else? my Pokemon was early stuff, and so he was basically just heading up Team Rocket, pretending like he was boss. Right. Well, Pokemon speak English, right? Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, has anyone here worked on Pokemon?
I have.
I'd like to start with this by saying I think there's a little difference between his job translating for Pokemon creatures to humans and our job of translating manga into English. May not be a lot of skill overload.
One big insight is that felt that he was the boss, and freelance translators can't deal with their boss. Basically, when you're a freelance translator, you get what the company gives you, and you do it, and you say yes. Unless it's against your moral, something you're morally against whatever the material is, you basically have to say yes. And
assuming you have laws.
Another thing too, for those of you who may not be as familiar or just recently getting into manga in English, there's a big difference between translating manga, adapting manga, rewriting manga, and original English language manga, in the sense that I started out at a time when I did what's known as a literal translation, and that's taking the Japanese and making a very basic translation into English, practically word for word. And then I would often hand my work over, and this is with Viz, and different companies do it a little differently, where there was someone called the rewriter, and the rewriter would make it kind of do a first pass editing so that it would flow more smoothly as a story, and also during grammatical errors, because a lot of literal translators were not necessarily bilingual the way I was. And then and for example, this would be something like Dragon Ball or early Naruto, where then it would actually be hanging out to Jason, who was actually my editor for both Dragon Ball and the early stages of Naruto. And then if you wanted to say a few words about rewriting.
Well, yeah, the editors are basically the people who actually work for the manga company, and the translators are like the incredibly low-paid mercenaries who do the actual translation work. But it's the editors who are responsible ultimately for stuff like how characters' names are translated. So basically, if something is wrong with the manga, it's the editor you should blame. The translator is really, they were really following orders. But, the first book is great. The manga translation is great. The translator will take credit for it. So, yeah, the editors are responsible for the ultimate, a lot of the ultimate decisions. In terms of names, how like basic proofreading, how the sound effects look, and sometimes censorship, although that's often dictated down from like the very highest marketing people or highest publishing people of the company, and the editors just have to deal with it. But yeah, so people like myself and Julie, we're both the manga editors, so we've both gone through funky literal translations and cleaned them up, and also we've gone, or ultimately you can say that we've gone through crystal clear, awesome literal translations, and we've added a lot of crappy American slang. But usually that's the rewriter's job, and there aren't that many rewriters working in the manga industry anymore. Primarily because they cost a amount of money, and so no one can afford to use them. But anyways, yes, so that's the difference between an editor and a translator.
What's the original question?
I've not forgotten the question.
First, it was terribly language specific of me to say that Meow is the only Pokemon who speaks English, is of course the only Pokemon who speaks human language. But also, since he has a near monopoly on this, he only has his word for it that he's interpreting them correctly. Yeah, but you knew that you trusted him. You can figure out certain ones. You can figure out if he was Satoshi, the Japanese version. You could, if you listen closely, which I was forced to do, you could figure out certain Pokemon utterances and figure out the words for them. They were consistent in a lot of those cases. I was going to say another thing about now, but it sort of slipped my mind. Thank you very much. What is your favorite manga that you've worked on? Or what are yours?
We're going to go down there.
Inuyasha X. I enjoyed X a lot. It was very easy to do because there's actually not that much dialogue per installment. There's a lot of sound effects, a lot of significant pauses, but it was so enjoyable to go through. It was like you take, say, I got an hour, I'm going to do X, and it was very enjoyable hour to go through. Like you just kind of like work with those few pages. For a while we ran it as an installment, and there wasn't that many pages. And you go through and you mark the sound effects, and sometimes a 2 or 3 page script, barely any dialogue at all. Beautiful comic, loved it. Inuyasha was actually kind of, there were anecdotes that go with the previous question about editing, because I remember working with Mario on Inuyasha, a lot of times that one did go through a rewriter, and sometimes I would get it to rewrite and kind of steer it back towards the literal, because since it was about historical themes, you want to keep pushing it back towards the more authentic sound. Sometimes I go back and read those issues at the time, and I think, I probably do it a little differently now, but then it was like, let's be super authentic, so I'm really pushing. That was one of the main decisions that I made, was the names. Authentic names rather than getting them like translate the names. Yeah, one of them. I enjoyed even those. The monster.
My favorite would have to be Beck. It was actually what I started. That was the first thing that I ever did professionally, and so yeah, it kind of went downhill from there. But no, if you're not familiar with it, it's a music song. It's about Robotech. It's about having any musician myself. All that. I felt that it was great, a great way to get started, and I felt like that was the right guy for the job.
Stephen, what is your least favorite manga you've worked on? All right. Judges with our adventure, definitely.
I'm saying this, and not because Jason's sitting next to me, but it has to be Dragon Ball. And it's mostly because I grew up reading Dragon Ball way before it ever got translated. And when I got did I get a call or an email back then? But saying we're going to license Dragon Ball and do it, it was an interesting backstory to that is that, of course, in the U.S., in Japan, it's one series called Dragon Ball for the manga. The anime, there's Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GTO, etc. And the manga series is always just Dragon Ball, and it's 41 or 42 volumes. When Viz licensed it, they decided to publish it in 2 parts simultaneously. The Z part, which is the kids, and the original Dragon Ball, which is the story of Goku as he becomes an adult, which only goes into like the first third of volume 17 of the manga. And I got a choice of which I wanted to do, and having been a fan of child Goku, the innocent yet nutsy little kid with the tail, I decided, even though it was shorter, to do the original 17 volumes instead of the long half. And I actually, my friend who's not here is the translator for Dragon Ball Z. And she's like, are you sure? I've got like a third more volumes than you do. And I said, that's fine. I'd rather do the innocent clumsy Goku.
My favorite titles were, back in my writing comic days, City Hunter and Slam Dunk, because they were both brilliantly funny, brilliantly created manga. They were just fun to do, and the challenge of making them funny in English was very taxing and very very enjoyable. Now, my favorites that I'm doing are Black Cat, because the rewriter is brilliant, and as an editor, all I have to do is go and check the spelling. Because she's such a good rewriter that I don't have to change a thing. As has been mentioned before, sometimes you get something that's been translated and even rewritten, and you're thinking, we paid something for this? No names will be mentioned. And I love Claymore, which is coming out right now. I translate that, and that's just such a great, exciting series. It's also not a comedy. Non-dramas are so much easier to do than comedy. So.
This is a hard one because the true answer, I'll give you titles afterwards, but the true answer to this is the title I'm working on at the moment. No, I don't mean that. I mean whatever title I'm working on at the moment, because when I'm working on a title, I get into it. I really, it's, you know, I basically absorb myself in it, and, you know, thinking, great Domeki, you know, Domeki, flat, you know, emotionless dialogue, that's fun. Or if you're, or any of the characters from school level are extremely fun because they're all extreme. And so you get a chance to do all sorts of different types of dialogue. But that's a cop-out answer, so I'm going to have to say it's Pollock and Mushishi. Basically, Pollock is fun because it's so well plotted, and the art is beautiful to look at. And I miss doing, I forget doing to do some of the sound effects because I'm so into the dialogue. And Mushishi is really hard to research, and you'll know if you pick it up and look at the notes in the back, because translators do the translation notes, that there's so many details that you have to know to do it, but it's part of the thing that this took so many pains to do. The story's great, but it took so many pains to do that you have to love it. That sort of thing that fits.
Thank you. Our works are our babies. Yeah. Something I've sort of seen in the entertainment industry is like with the recording to America or translated or things like sometimes there's a trend that you see coming off that indicates that the American version is fairly something, and sometimes a nice sort of make more racist than the original. With it being racist because of the child characters based on the I'm wondering from your experience, they don't have more people than was negative about that. But I wonder from your experience, how do you feel about that? I've had to deal with all different versions of, censorship is not the only issue that you're talking about. You're talking about that's one of the issues you're talking about, but how things are changed, / Americanized, / censored. And the answer to that is all of us work for companies full of many people at various levels of authority. And every single one of those people has an opinion. And it is, I will say, an opinion. It has nothing to do with reality in that everyone's opinion is equally valid. But there's some who are telling us, no, you have to make this Americanized. And you have to make the dialogue Americanized. You have to make the kids sound like American. And there are others who say, no, we want this to be as authentic as possible. And you have every range out there, a fanboy, who is making the complaints on their websites and on their internet forums saying, oh, this was too Americanized, or it was censored too badly, or everybody's got an opinion about this very, very unexact, non-scientific process called translation / adaptation. And it always comes down to somebody's just got to decide. There are some people who want it so completely authentic that basically they prefer to just be reading it in Japanese with literal translations in the footnotes, but the Japanese still in the panels. There are other people whose idea is like, well, if you can't enjoy it as an American reader, what's the point? The problem is, it really just comes down to making choices. It comes down to opinion. Sometimes there's stuff that I've been told to do that I didn't agree with, but I was told I had to do it. Do you put the Japanese last names first, or do you put the Japanese last names last? It's that kind of, and then you just have to make a decision. You're not going to satisfy everybody. You're not going to satisfy everybody in your own company, and you just end up making choices.
Also, I mean, historically speaking, we've already made a big stride in the manga industry here in the U.S. in the sense that, for any of you who may have been around back in the very early 90s, we used to flip the pages so that they could be read American style. So left to right instead of right to left. That's practically non-existent except for limited edition that you can find from the 90s. Censorship things have changed a little bit over time, but again, sometimes it's actually out of the hands of the manga companies because even to this day, a lot of times manga titles get licensed after the anime has been licensed and sometimes after the anime is already airing in the US. And in that case, if you want, there's two thoughts. Do you want to make a more quote-unquote authentic to the Japanese version and then have fans complain that the same character has different names in the anime versus the manga?
And you manga people obviously got it wrong.
Or do you want to be faithful and yet have the same character have a name that doesn't appear in the Japanese? So there's that whole thing. Then there's the religious type of thing, where the difference in Japan is that a lot of mainstream Japanese culture is a-religious. It's very spiritual, but not necessarily religious the way that we see religion here in the United States. So they adapt a lot of especially Christian symbology into manga and anime, where for part of it, it's just symbols, and part of it, it is vaguely Christian, but it's not Christian the way that is necessarily respectful, but not respectful from the way that they're trying to disrespect. It's just that they're not Christian, so they don't see it the same way that Americans do, and especially the right wing sees it. And the right wing already has a lot of issues with the way that religion is handled, or sacrilegious stuff is handled in mainstream media. So they're even more scrutinous of something like anime, which they view as cartoons, which are supposed to be meant for children, which, all of you who are anime fans know that in Japan, anime is for any age. I mean, they're definitely age-specific, but you go from little kitties to very mature, X-rated stuff. And it gets all grouped into stuff for kids here in the U.S. So, and these are things that are mostly out of the control of people even within the manga industry. But in order for us to be able to sell it to everyone here, we kind of have to play by the rules.
One thing about censorship of manga that I've noticed on the time that I've worked in the manga industry is that frankly it's extremely inconsistent. I mean, every company has their own rules, and frankly these rules usually will change from month to month. So that like one day we'll be like you can't have naked breasts in a 16-month book, and other times they'll be like, oh whatever, that's fine. So it's really arbitrary, company to company, and even just based on like whether there's some person who happens to be the marketing director at the company at the time, and they're like, you can't sell this at scholastic bookstores, or if there's nudity in it, and like a dude tied to a cross being attacked by a Nazi, stuff like that. Yeah, I remember when I was at Hanaki, there's a line, there's an author's note where he's saying a Nazi joke, he starts going on and like, I really shouldn't say this, but I love Nazi uniforms. And so anyway, I think I was forced to cut that. There's all kinds of things. One thing though that has to be borne in mind is that almost always the Japanese artists and publishers are aware of the censorship. It always goes through them. And some artists are most artists are pretty cool with it. Because their work gets censored in other companies too. Like a lot of stuff that's published in Korea and like China gets censored. And so most of them are fairly cool with it being censored in the U.S. Other artists actually will complain and will stand up for their work. Like I believe Eiichiro Oda refused to allow Sanji to have a lollipop in his mouth from the manga of One Piece. So he insisted it be a cigarette. In fact, he put out a cigarette in my hand when so yeah, it just varies a lot. It's very inconsistent. I don't see any real end to that.
Question
to ask Bill, weren't you working on Video Girl Eye when we had that whole big flap about the censorship in Japan? Remember that one segment that was cut back out of that volume?
What are we doing here? Actually, the whole thing about Japan and the PTA happened before Viz started publishing Video Girl Eye.
Right, so that was the case of where it had been censored in Japan before
Right.
we got
The fans wanted us to get a pre-censored version of the artwork. And there was a huge problem with asking Shueisha because Shueisha wasn't owning Viz at the time. And even if they did, it would still be a problem because if you ask them, you're saying, you changed it, you were wrong, we want the right one. And so it was hard, it couldn't be asked. It was a question that if you wanted any more licenses from Shueisha, it was a question you couldn't ask, but most of the fans here wanted it. So, so basically I made a mistake of not lying. I said, I'm sorry, we can't ask the question, and got bashed pretty heavily for that. But, as it turned out, someone looked into it, and Shueisha didn't have the originals anyway. So we had to publish the Japanese censored version at the end of that.
Yeah.
Oh well.
And Mark, did you have some good stories about Gundam with the TV adaptation?
I guess there's a couple different levels, different varieties of this. One is the kind of the cultural censorship, where they'll just take, I think they do much less this now than they used to, where they just go and take out references in Japanese. I mean, I remember Star Blazers way back in the day, they go through and like, instead of Honshu, it's Great Island, and instead of eating sushi, they have chocolate cake for lunch. Kind of side by side with you, Dr. Fate is always drinking this spring water, but, so one is kind of the moral censorship, the other is the cultural censorship. I think the cultural stuff is much less so. People kind of are aware now that the stuff comes from Japan, and they kind of like that and want to learn about it. So similarly with the changing of names, I think is the trend's very much against that. But the kind of the morals and the language and so on, it's still, it's really a question of the venue you're trying to get it into.
I think you'd agree with me that in fact when it comes to cultural censorship, fans are way ahead of some publishers. Fans are ready for stuff that the publishers are, oh no, you can't do it like that, it won't sell. So, and that's one of the issues that we have to kind of, no, fans want it like this. Like, no.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the wait. You got something that we all like.
We all like to talk about that.
Now we got our cups.
Yeah, don't get a real job.
This is a question I pretty much get at every single translation panel I do, and part of the reason why I do these panels. My main answer to that, the question is, how do I go about getting translation work? And the person who asked the question actually has some translation experience under his belt, but for any of you who don't and are hoping to get started, the main thing is you do need a good, solid background in both the English language and the Japanese language. And in addition to just taking language classes here in the States, I hardly recommend at least spending a semester, if not a year or more, in Japan, because a lot of translation work is nuances and cultural references in addition to just pure language. And that's why I also say you need a very strong background in English, because especially in these days and ages where, as Jason mentioned, there's not as many companies hiring separate rewriters, you're often asked to rewrite your own work. So you need to be able to do grammatically correct, make sure you can spell check, make sure you can do all the cross-references and translation notes and so forth. In addition to that, though, is definitely something that, and now I'm like, school is really spinning, but if any of you want to... Oh, yes. You want to come to cons like this one and make contacts with different companies, make contacts with people, and not necessarily other translators. You want contacts with editors, with licensing folk, Oh, now I remember. The biggest thing is if you really want to become a translator, be a translator of legal documents, medical documents, business documents. That's where the real money is. Manga translation, for the most part, is a work of love. And especially for people who live in big cities like San Francisco, New York, LA, San Diego, you can't live on a manga translator's pay alone unless you have a spouse, family money, or a day job. Most of us have at least one, if not more than one of those. So it's really hard, and it really is a labor of love. And I know all of you want to do it because you love it too, but it really doesn't pay all your bills.
How are you getting? The best way to make your contacts in the industry is to be a nice guy. To go up to, basically go up to meet editors, as Mari said. You want to, be friendly. You don't want to tax them too much, so you don't want to just stand there with a smile on your face while hoping that they're going to make conversation. All you want to do at a convention is make contact, ask them if there's a way to submit, and then find out the way to submit and hand them a business card. You don't want to hand them anything more than a business card because they're traveling back to their place, and the first thing that gets dumped in the trash can because they can't pack everything is the people they don't know. So a business card is easy to carry. So no big proposals or anything like that. Just hand it over and make friendly conversation. If you hit it off, great. If you don't, move on to the next publisher. That sort of thing.
If I want to ask one of the other panelists a question, do I have to get one? I'm sorry, what? If I want to ask one of the other panelists a question, should I get one? Or?
Okay, hold on a second. Was there anybody else wanting to answer this one? Okay. All right, go ahead, please.
No, I'll ask you to the end. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Hi, my name is Adam with Podcast with Gundam. And I can go on and work on it. I love Gundam, I love Tech, and I was a big fan of the garage. And look at the start, this is a very small
Yada yada yada. Yada yada yada.
Exactly. I live it every day saying that. But what genre do you find yourself translating the most, and what's your favorite genre?
Well, bear in mind that I'm just an editor. I like shonen battle manga, and I like horror manga, and I like romantic comedies.
I feel bad that people on the end haven't answered it. Why don't you answer, like, if you could work on a genre again, even if it's as an editor, what would you do? Yeah, we want to hear from all of you down there.
Well, what you actually get to work on, depends entirely on what they offer you. You don't necessarily get a lot of choices. Although if you do have a good dialogue with your managing editor, and you can tell them what you're interested in, then it's possible that they'll give you the projects that are more in line with what you like. Personally, I like more mature intellectual type stuff. It apparently doesn't sell very well. So they don't give me a lot of them, but right. Yeah, but I think as you work on stuff, you learn to appreciate what makes each particular title special.
I pretty much only worked on shonen action adventures, but in terms of what I read personally, I really like kind of slightly older shoujo older both in terms of when they came out and also in terms of age bracket that they're created for, that have heavy folklore connections, Egyptian mythology, Celtic mythology, that kind of stuff. I love, I also, my day job is a veterinarian, and there are a couple of veterinary-related manga out there that actually is my pet project to try to bring over to the States. And I like really funny gag manga that involve animals. My current favorite read is Neko Ramen, which is cat ramen. It's a four-panel manga about a cat who decides he wants to become a ramen noodle shop owner, and all his adventures that occur because he is a cat.
I like them all. It's like she said, I'm more, what I like or dislike is more about, is this artist good? Is this funny? Or is this interesting? Or is it fun to do? It has, to me, nothing to do with genre.
I'm, on the other hand, a genre whore. I love, like Jason, I love romantic comedy and fantasy-based stuff. I started just picking up Orange Road, Kimagure Orange Road comics, and translating them just for myself, and moved up to Maison Ikoku and that kind of thing. And, you know, now that, thankfully, Del Rey has given me mostly fantasy and love comedy kind of things with School Rumble and Fairy Tale. Can't get much more fantasy than Fairy Tale. So I'm a happy guy.
Thank you all for your comments. We want to I appreciate it.
Oh, okay. I'm really sorry, but I think we're running out of time. We'd like to get your
Comedy is very hard.
It's a complaint rather than a pet peeve. My pet peeve sometimes is reading what I worked on that someone rewrote and completely disagreeing with what ended up in print.
Here. I hate having to censor manga. I almost got fired by being really obnoxious that I have to censor manga. Puns, yeah, puns.
I got to say, the one thing that really struck me when I was working on the kind of the origin was, you know, doing rewrites from that, is that you can get through the speeches, the puns, the technobabble, but the sound effects. You know, you want to come up with something that sounds good in English and kind of, you know, carries the emotion. I would spend easily twice as long on the sound effects as I would on all the dialogue. Yeah.
I was going to say that to sound effects. I hate arguing with people about sound effects or trying to come up with good equivalents. I actually had an anecdote from one of my coworkers, Trish. I remember she spent at least a couple hours trying to come up with the sound from lobsters falling out of trees. What do you think?
You couldn't spot some lobsters. There were trees around minutes. You couldn't spot some lobsters. You know, there's trees in the street.
There was a very short period that I don't admit to where I was doing erotic comics. And the thing that made me stop was rape. There were just too many people where the rape just wasn't saved in time, kind of thing. And it's the only comic job I ever quit. Only one ever. Sorry to end it on a downer. Ask a happy question. Okay, the question is, he reads Korean manga. Do we translate anything other than Japanese? And and what do we like to read better, the Japanese version or the English? Let me start. it was difficult enough for me to learn Japanese. So I'm only bilingual, and that's it. And when it comes to the two, I read the Japanese version just for fun. I read the English version for other people's ideas on how to translate. You get great ideas stealing other people's ideas.
He just said everything I wanted to say, and until French comics start becoming big in America, I'm out of luck.
In my day job, I go English to Spanish, Spanish to English as well, but I've never tried manga, and I do English to Japanese for verbal interpretation.
All I know is Japanese is a little Latin. You don't get Latin part. I'll buy some famous bills.
Better than us.
People often bring up, like, lots of on the internet, people bring up that fans who translate manga for free on the internet are killing the industry of manga. I don't believe that's true as well. Oftentimes I'll be translating manga online, and then when you guys pick it up and translate it, maybe they're still not buying the manga. For example, Black Hat has a translation. So one of the arguments is the fact that there are things that are censorship and stuff, but my main question is, do you believe that fans who do translate manga for free online are a threat to the industry?
Not at all. One of my jobs in Japanese courts is, the publisher says, should we buy this license or not? The first thing I do is I get online to see if the fans have started translating it. If there's like 3 people out there that are already translating, I say, it's popular, let's do it. The fan translations, just in the same way as the fan subs of anime in the old days, prove that it's popular and saves us the work.
Actually, I'm of a differing opinion for a different reason. It's hurting the anime industry. It's really hurting the anime industry. The anime industry is going down too because people are downloading things and not buying them.
I was talking about
if you are buying manga after you read it on the internet, I'm more okay with it. But the problem is, every time you read something on the internet for free, you're not putting money in the pockets of the artists, even back in Japan. And I know, like, there are used bookstores whose name shall remain nameless, who sell used manga both in Japan and the US, and it's taking a huge bite out of the legitimate manga industry, even in Japan. And it's maybe not as big of a problem as the anime industry, partly because there are fans that are still buying the actual books themselves too, but it's making people in the industry in Japan nervous. So.
From a completely selfish point of view, the first translation you read is the translation to you. So if somebody does a translation online and then the official comes out that's significantly different, most people consider that the translation online is the right one and the one that came out is wrong, when all translation is words filtered through a brain and then put out. So there's a lot of room for interpretation. In fact, interpretation is one of the words for translation. So basically, there's the one problem that I personally have, since I'm not a publisher, it doesn't affect me so much except for lack of work, if that ever comes to be. But as a translator, it's getting people who come back at me and say, it wasn't that way. And, okay, it wasn't that way for you, is all I can answer on that.
The industry right now is in a big long bubble. There's a lot of books in the stores right now. It looks like it's just terrible, huge demands, which it is. But there's a case of like how long it's going to stay that way. Just like in anime, it's been on a downturn for quite a while because of the downloads. So it's a question of whether or not it's going to have a long-term effect. It may not happen this week or this year, but it could eventually start to eat into the actual what books are on the shelf. Because like what happens to the orders this month is not necessarily always going to be there next year at the same time. The orders may not be there next time because print publishing in general is undergoing a lot of transformation with online media becoming more of a thing. So what we have right now, it's important to remember this is all very temporary. that the industry is constantly changing. Just the time that any of us have been doing this work has changed immensely. From the manga that we used to have to flip the other way, all sorts of things. It wasn't digital. You used to do it by hand on stats. It was completely different. What's going to be available next year? Anybody's guess. The thing to remember about, as Omar is pointing out, your free downloads is that it doesn't give it back to the people in Japan. So even if the industry here dries up, it's important to remember that there's still the industry there, but you say to yourself, what happens if the industry there goes away? And in Japan, the manga business is in a bit of a depression there too. It's kind of important to remember that they're, the original source material, they have a market that's being sub-licensed to our market, and that they're operating independently of each other. So it's like right now, anime and manga in Japan are kind of not as high as they were at one point. That's going to trickle down too. So it's like it's always so anytime you see something online, prove people right, support it, go out and say, yo, I bought the official product. So it's going to get back to somebody, in terms of popularity. And, go to the websites and, go, be on the official boards and prove that I love this stuff, and give the feedback any way you can think of. But the thing with underground fandom, if it's online, you can do it for free, you can be as fanny as you want, but it doesn't get the message out to the people who are actually producing it, who are actually trying to make a living off of it. That's the one thing to remember. But it's like, you can still enjoy it, but it's like it can drive it back to the underground where you won't be able to get it more and more and won't be able to get it.
Okay, I'm really sorry to be the last person with a question. Thank you very much. But we're out of time. We've got to stop on that. What's that? Your booth number? Oh, but we don't have booth. We're freelance. So, thank you, everybody.
Go away, Todd. If you want to come in, you are going to have to break down the goddamn door.
Striking out on finding your favorite manga, anime, or series merchandise nearby or online? Lost when it comes to finding pop music from Japan, Hong Kong, and other Asian markets? Well then, Florida Oriental Trading is here to help. If you live in the Central Florida area, head on over to the intersection of Colonial Drive and Mills Avenue near downtown Orlando. You'll find FOT right next to the CVS Pharmacy. For those who live abroad, find out more about our favorite store online at floridaorientaltrading.com or call them directly at area code 407-895-0650. FOT carries a large selection of merchandise such as art books, t-shirts, posters, wall scrolls, soundtracks, PVC figurines, models, and much, much more. Also, it's a great place to find imports of your favorite musical artists and the latest films from Japan, Hong Kong, and other Asian countries. Last but not least, Florida Oriental Trading is not only home to the best selection of anime on DVD in Central Florida, but there you'll find a wide variety of manga too. On top of that, all of their manga is always priced at 20% less than retail daily.
20%?
That's right, Frank.
20%.
Florida Oriental Trading is open every day except Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You even find them open most holidays. So if you're local, stop on by and visit Quan and Debbie or give them a call at area code 407-895-0650 and give them the business. Tell them Gundam at MAHQ sent you.
I'll be damned if I'm gonna clean up this mess!
Hey everybody, this is Neo, and for our next panel segment, it's actually not a panel segment, it's more of a live interview. After the Manga Lost in Translation panel, which included Mark Simmons, we were able to kind of track him down and ask him a few questions right after his panel. So bear with us a little bit because it's actually recorded in the hallway of the convention center on a regular recorder. So if you hear any background noise with people, or if the audio sounds a little low, that's the reason. Just kind of asked him a few general things about Gundam and the release of Gundam 00 in America. It's about 10 to 12 minutes long, so you guys enjoy, and we'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Neo right here, and we got to corral Mark Simmons, and everybody knows him from Gundam Official and all the Ultimate Mark Wikipedias and all that back in the day. We're just going to ask him a couple questions here because I know he's got some things to do. It's right after one of the panels here, but Mark, you were saying earlier that you're back with Bandai?
Yeah, you know, we had this thing going, and then we sort of fell out of touch, and now everything's okay. When they started production on Gundam 00, they hired me back on. So yeah, I hadn't been doing a lot of stuff because there hadn't been a lot of Gundam stuff to do.
Oh, well, I know that what's coming on Sci-Fi in November. What's some of the other things that they're going to be doing in conjunction? Do you know, or can you say, or?
I don't think there's anything else that I either know about or can talk about. So you can either sort of read that as me being deeply ignorant or really knowing all sorts of good stuff like that.
So I guess you could kind of say that the anime is probably not the only thing that we're going to see.
The main thing, as far as I know, it'll be on the Sci-Fi Network, and then there'll be DVDs, and then you can buy it, and they'll pay me money, and everybody wins.
Any reason why it went to Sci-Fi instead of Cartoon Network, or is that something you can't discuss?
It's something I don't know about,
I guess, is everybody excited that it's back on television? Gundam's going to be back on television over there at Bandai, or because it seems like there's a big push. We were here earlier at the con, and the Bandai panels or the Bandai booths got a whole bunch of stuff, pushing, especially Code Geass and Gundam. So we're just kind of wondering if there's going to be a renewed thing.
I don't think there's going to be the same kind of merchandising level push there was for the earlier ones. I mean, with things like G Gundam and Gundam Seed, it's like they had the toy lines, they had the whole thing ready to go, and it didn't go. So I think this time, probably everybody would be really happy just to have Gundam on television, because that's good for video sales, and video sales are good for the franchise. And so if that does really well, then maybe someday there'll be the toys again. That's what I'm hoping.
So, for a question?
Well, I'm a big fan of yours way back in the Gundam Project days, but I have a question. How did you get your start with Bandai originally?
Originally I was running the Gundam Project, my old website, and I think it was actually at maybe an anime expo sort of in the late 90s when Bandai first started up its US branch, and they had that whole anime village thing. I don't know if anybody remembers, I don't know if anybody should remember, but they're like, oh hey, you're that guy who does that Gundam site, come here, we want to talk to you. And basically, since it's a big franchise with 20 different shows and a lot of jargon and babble and so on, they just wanted to have somebody on board who could write about it intelligently and maybe would just know what all the stuff is. And as time went on, that kind of became my kind of formal role, is to be the guy who would go, is this right? Is this a reference to some other show? Is there some way we should be phrasing this? As time goes on, every Gundam show gets more and more self-referential. Right. And it's sort of hinging on more and more continuity, where it's like, is that guy quoting Char? Is this like a reference to something else? Is that the same thing they mentioned in that other episode? And then when they do the video games, like, the Musou, Gundam Musou?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dynasty Warriors one here in the U.S.
Yeah, where it's like they're referencing 20 different shows and dropping lines of dialogue. Like, oh, that's from episode 33 of Double Theta. So I'd like to think that I can offer that, but at the same time I kind of feel like part of this is also that in Japan, at Sunrise, where Gundam is their crown jewel, and just they kind of want to have some kind of quality check, and for some reason they think I can provide that, and I live in fear that one day somebody from Sunrise is going to sit down and look at some stuff I've been doing, the advice I've been giving, the feedback I'm providing, go, what the heck?
how did this clown get into the building? He's doing it all wrong. So,
well, that's good. But I got one other question here, and we'll let you get going. And this is something that everybody. Okay, we'll do a fanboy question with Solver before we leave. But we're coming up on 2009, which would be the 30th anniversary of Mobile Suit Gundam, and there's lots and lots of rumors out there. I know you probably can't say anything if you know anything, but can you kind of maybe point us to the direction that there may be other things, or maybe a return to Universal Century?
See, this is the thing, is I don't actually know much about the marketing side of this, so I can't answer this question, but refusing to answer the question makes it sound like I know cool stuff I can't tell you, so I'll do that. And then people will think I'm really important and connected.
Well, I didn't know if, because it just seems like with the renewed, with 00, I mean, personally, Solbro and myself did not think that it was going to be coming over to the U.S., especially be shown on TV, because of what happened with Destiny and Gundam Seed prior with some of the viewership. So we were just kind of wondering if you had known anything, or, that there's talk that, there's a renewed push that Gundam's now very, very popular again, it seems, in the States, but I didn't know if you knew anything. I know that's more probably Sunrise than Bandai Entertainment at this time.
And I think that at this point, it's probably unrealistic to make grand plans to, make Gundam a huge franchise, the overall Gundam brand name in the States. I think it's probably the most people should be hoping for now is that 00 will succeed on its own terms.
Yeah.
And it's got a well-known, well-regarded director. There's a second season coming down the pipe, and if 00 succeeds on its own terms, I think that's a win for Gundam in the West right now. The overall franchise, I think, in Japan, oh my God, we're probably going to get one year award out. But I don't know of, and I would be really surprised if there's a corresponding classic Gundam push in the U.S. I think right now, if people watch 00, like it, buy the DVDs, then that's great, that's good, and then we'll kind of go from there.
So I guess you would probably say that baby steps are probably the best thing for Gundam's reintroduction into the U.S. then.
Speaking of a private individual, not a Bandai or Sunrise spokesperson who's just shooting my mouth up here, yeah, that would be great. I think just having a good show that succeeds, because that's how Gundam in the U.S. basically launched. It launched with Gundam Wing, which was a show that came out of nowhere, got a good time slot, got some attention, people responded to the characters, not because there was a 25-year franchise behind it, not because there was a big branding push, but just because it was a show that was on that people liked.
It was entertaining.
Yeah, hell yeah. Gundam Wing was great. It was a good time. It made a generation of Gundam fans, frankly. So, I think maybe at this point, given the number of options that people have, the competition, the number of things that are on the air, the different ways people have access to anime now, it's unlikely you'll see something like that again, but just to have 00 just achieve some popularity, be successful, would be a win for Gundam, for all of us, for the children.
For the children.
Future.
One last thing on Mobile Suit Gundam, and I'm going to put it over to Solbros fanboy question is, I know it's available in HD and Blu-ray over in Japan. Are they going to be bringing that format over for the American releases? I think that the releases are in November or December is what I read, kind of in conjunction when it's shown.
You should totally ask the Bandai guys that. I don't know. Don't they have a panel today? At 5 or something? You should totally ask them. Tell them I sent you.
Okay, no problem. Well, I'm going to give it to Solbro so he can do his fanboy question. We'll let you get going after that. I just got to say that Gundam The Origin was one of the best. To me, my favorite adaptations. It's my favorite adaptation of Mobile Suit Gundam. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm sorry it's not going on right now, although it's still going on in Japan. But I just have a generic question. What is your favorite Gundam series?
Oh, I used to have a list. The last time I sat down to do this, I had a top 3 that I loved equally. And I think they were original Gundam, especially the movies. You get that beautiful fluid Yaz animation. It's so emotional. It's fresh. It's not a copy of a copy of a copy. and I love Victory Gundam. That was like one of the only Gundam shows that really made me like cry like a baby at the end. It's heartrending.
That's a show you need. What's it? Some uppers when you're watching this? Every episode is a guaranteed death. I can't watch Victory Gundam unless I'm in the mood to cry, and I haven't been lately. although we have this segment on the show where we actually review every Gundam series. We're doing in chronological order of production, and eventually we have to get to Victory Gundam, so I will have to sit down with that show again. But any other ones? Has your list changed since 00 has come out?
I think with 00, it's not over yet. You know, something like Full Metal Alchemist, you know, from the same director, Mizushima, was so intricately structured that, you know, it's not until the last piece is full into place you can really evaluate it. But the one other Gundam show for which I have a huge, deep fondness is G Gundam.
Yes.
Crazy. And it pushed the envelope in a way that really none of the other alternate universe shows have done.
Yes.
After G Gundam, anything you did with Gundam was in genre.
It was, and we're big fans of G Gundam. I did not want to watch that show until Neo here convinced me to watch it, and I sat down and watched it, and I was bowled over. But G Gundam is in our top. But thank you very much for answering that question of mine. I just always wanted to know. And
your favorite?
My favorite, out of UC, my favorite is Zeta, and out of AU, it's X. X. As short as it is, I love X. But I'll pass it back to Neo.
Mine would probably have to be along the same lines. I'm actually I'm X, and then probably G Gundam in alternate, and then Zeta, and actually I always say Mobile Suit because without it you wouldn't have the other ones. So that's the default. As cheesy as it can be at times, but but normally Zeta for the UC, and then X and G for alternate.
Gundam X has a lot of fans.
Yeah, and I saw it's coming back. They did some mangas and re-releases in Japan for it, so.
Okay. That's nice.
But thanks for your time, and we really look forward to talking to you again sometime. So, all right.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
You see us struggling in the car. You walk up, you open the door, and you say, "You're lying, George."
Oh, hey you, get your damn hands off her. You really think I ought to swear?
Yes, definitely. Damn it, George, swear.
Hey everybody, this is Neo again. Welcome back to Gundam MAHQ. Our next panel segment is actually the Robotech panel, and it was kind of an interesting panel to go to. They talked a lot about the history of Robotech, and they talked about a lot of the new marketing and a lot of new product offerings that they're going to be doing now in America, and how the popularity of Robotech has increased since the release of Shadow Chronicles about a year or so ago. So, and they actually have a little question and answer period, and there are some questions about Macross. So, for any of the Macross people out there, they do reference that a little bit. So, it was recorded in one of the large calls, and once again, if there's any little background noise or anything like that, just excuse it. But here it is, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Welcome to the Robotech presentation for San Diego Comic-Con. How many of you took the 5 days at San Diego County today? And how many of you were on 5 for about 5 hours? All right. Anyway, I've got with me here, behind the camera, Steve Easton. He is the webmaster and licensing coordinator for USA. Creative director, and I will now begin with Robotech. How many of you was into the Robotech television series since the beginning? How many of you are on 1985? Alright! And what's interesting about Robotech is for the computer games, it was actually around well-connected anime nerds, you can actually get the Macross beta tapes in English of the original scripts based on the original Japanese script. And there was also a Macross comic from Petco, which I remember was really marked up a lot by the comic readers because they were really hard to find. However, there was probably if you are aware of the 3 different stories making up the Robotech series. How many of you are here? Okay, how many of you didn't know that? Wow! You know, it's really interesting that there's still people learning about Robotech even now. And what happened is, of course, many of you know that in 1985, because of the issues with the Robotech television series, which was that most television stations would not accept a miniseries of only 36 or 24 episodes, which the components of Robotech were. They decided to combine 3 different series so that they would meet the minimum episode requirements so that it could be syndicated on television back then. Of course, you know, despite all these conspiracy theories, it wasn't, you know, because they were trying to, you know, undermine the Japanese creators or anything of that sort. It was just simply broadcast requirements of the day in 1985. And it was a huge hit, but like, of course, like many of you, I myself, I pretty much went nuts with the last episode because I wanted to find out what happened next when Scott Bernard went off into the stars. And I heard rumors about an upcoming Robotech 2 the Sentinel series, but it never materialized, and I was left on the hook, like many of you out there. And a little bit of Robotech 2 was released, but just not enough Sentinels was there to get my appetite. And there was a period between 87 to 1999. These were the quiet years of Robotech. This is where it was really hard to find really obscure novels, RPGs, really these black and white comic books that you had to, you know, go into back issue bins to really look for. And also at the same time, it was starting to fall a little bit away from the beaten path of Robotech continuities. You know, to some people, you really couldn't recognize it compared to the original television series. And how many of you heard of Robotech 3000? Now that's a surprise. I found out about Robotech 3000 in 1999, and I was so excited because it was going to be the first new Robotech in a while. And because CG was getting influenced with Voltron 3D at the time and Star Trek Troopers, there was a thought that maybe technology might work. But unfortunately, we found out later that some of the design team that worked on Robotech 3000, some of them had never been exposed to anime before. And also, at the time, the team that was working on it, how Robotech continuity is so complicated, nobody follows all these details, right? And so, this is what they ended up with. Here's a little. Now, what's interesting here is some of the motion capture tests that were done in 1999. And Robotech 3000, when test footage of it was aired to some television executives, it just didn't stick. What happened was, one gentleman, honestly, actually told us, it was one goal, that it was just taking vocalists, basically the source material for Robotech, and basically it was just not there anymore. And so, in 2001, with the launch of the Robotech.com website, there was a decision just to take and relaunch Robotech and just go back to old school, go back to the source, go back to the beginning. And we essentially relaunched Robotech on DVD, comic books, and video games, going back to the original Macross saga, going back to old school, and also making it more accessible, where it was really hard to find all 85 VHS episodes for all 85 episodes. Now you can find all of these in one complete box set. But that brought us the same issue as before, which was the 85-episode series was complete. The storyline was left open-ended, and in 2007, finally, just last year, they finally released the first continuation of the Robotech story. It was a very long time, it was Robotech Shadow Chronicles. And thankfully, it was a huge risk for Army. Army World had not been in the business of production for many, many years. And this release, they had invested completely in the production of the movie, sold the Western. He took the Gundam office, and it was a huge success. There were 2 successful releases last year. After last year's presentation, we actually had a second video release, Collector's Edition, that did extremely well. And we're also now launching worldwide. And for those folks who were getting down to the future of Robotech, it became Amazon's #1 best-selling anime game for over a month, and held that title as a cover. It became Funimation's best-selling new release at Walmart. And recently we found out that ICQ rated it one of the top 10 anime novels of 2007. And this was not Robotech overall, this was a chapter by itself. So it had done extremely well. And there's our most recent DVD release is the cheapest collector's edition. And we've gotten back into getting more product back out to collectors now that the DVD has done well. Just like the classic original series, we're starting with soundtracks, we're starting to release art books again. And we have an interesting story with the Robotech games. They were one of the last licensees to rush it out with Robotech during the mid years, where even though other licenses started dropping out this year, they stuck it through and they were releasing expansion, expansion. Our final Robotech 3000 came out. Kevin Sabita took one look at it. Thank you very much. See ya. And decided to drop the Robotech license. You remember that, right, Steve?
Yeah, he was pretty polite about it, but, he just couldn't see any reason for holding like a Robotech anymore. He wasn't sure where it was going, so he said, I'll wait to see if something new pops up, and then, we'll talk again.
Well, several years later, we were talking to prospective small publishers of our piece, but industry had a shakeout where the industry had been shrinking. And one of the thoughts that came to mind was, they were one of the strong publishers that survived the shakeout. And we actually sent him a pre-release just to kind of take a look, see if he would be interested in it. All of a sudden, he contacted us right away, and he was totally excited to get back on board. And now we have a world publishers once again. And this artificial release was such a huge success for them. They were actually at one point going out of business because they had an investment issue. But what happened was this book had done so well, it actually brought the back on its feet. And now they're releasing more editions right away. They're starting to do large hardcovers again, and they're starting to do source books. And here's some examples of their new Macross Saga role-playing games. They're not just going to recycle and reprint the original material. They're actually redoing the game from scratch. And what's nice here finally is Kevin had noted that at that time, for many years, there wasn't really any Robotech staff supervising production licenses. However, this time around, we were able to get production materials, model sheets, even unpublished designs that were not even published in Japan. And now we're ending up with just fantastic new material for the new artists. And this is also driving all sorts of new merchandise that we haven't had in years, not since the 80s, where they're getting everything out of accessories, tchotchkes, some of which you see up here. So some of you lucky folks in the audience will get a chance to get one of these items. And also novels, which we really like to find, where we had dozens of novels, of which we had to go on eBay and really go through a lot of trouble to complete a set. Now we've got an And for those of you who are old school gaming, what's interesting is now most of the advanced weapons that you have are about as powerful as Game Boy Advance. And now we have old school side-scroller games available for mobile. And we have the largest distributor in the US and Canada, AT&T and Rogers, respectively. And we just recently had a sprint. So those of you in the audience right now who text RTP sprint right now to that number, you'll get the game as we speak. And another small nice thing in the industry that kind of came full circle is pop culture hacks. It was the one fan magazine that followed Robotech for the last couple of years. And what happened was, as Robotech gradually kind of faded from the public view in the 90s, pop culture hacks had found its voice online as anime news network, and it is now the biggest anime, essentially anime news network available out there. However, when their 20th anniversary came up, it was nice of them to coincide with our market and take a shout out. Part of the question now, of course, the reason why you're all here is, what is the scope of it? What is it? We've got to look back on TV. That was one thing we're really working hard on, getting it back available on television. Right now it's on cable channels and satellite channels. We're working hard to see if we can get more revenue available to more viewers. And new masterpiece editions, we're now producing toys based on the method that you see. And one of the biggest requests we have, cyclones, or if you like the Japanese term, mosquitoes. We've got these smaller units currently available. I believe, what scale is it? Like a 115 or 118 scale?
I don't know if they have a budget
But
lay down outside of it and see.
They're going to be available for Toonami. One thing that's nice is Toonami is now working with Japanese manufacturers. They're working with Mecha Manga on this cycle product, and they're also working with other companies. They're doing a larger scale build right now because this one is so large. It's made by Eagle, and it's an even larger scale. It's almost double the size of the original release. So that's coming out pretty soon.
Actually, more like 50%, like a little like original media.
Yes. Maybe fire this for real. Now, there were a lot of people who were skeptical over whether such a large high price point could be built. And one of the things that happened is by cooperating with the Japanese manufacturers, they were able to get the minimum order quantity, basically the scale of production that they needed to actually make it, even though it's a very high price players product. And they're not just going to do that. They're all of them. Yeah!
Actually, after this panel, you go down to Toonami's booth, and they've got all of them on display right now, so check them out.
All right, tomorrow morning. And for you old school fans, they're not forgetting about the beat-up one. They're doing more beat-up ones, and they're doing it at low price points, 1/100 scale. If you want the 155 scale, those two. So we're going to have them at different price points, different scales, different flavors. And they're also doing the D100 Walker. Yeah! All the stuff we saw from MAHQ movie. All the armor. And if you go to exhibit hall, remember, booth number 1429, they're going to have, now, if you go down the left, those left actually not issue with the Matchbox edition of the 80s. Toonami actually went and resculpted a new battle file from scratch to go along with their VF1. So, if you go to the exhibit hall, you're going to see these on display. This is their new battle file, which is a nice little surprise. Robotech, starting with Robotech Shadow Chronicles. For all you PS3 and PSP owners out there, you can now legally download. It's actually a launch title, which is very impressive on Sony's products. And it's also available on Amazon. So if you have one of those iPhones, you're going to be able to download that.
Oh, you guys are honest, man.
So if you're really got to see Robotech wherever you are, check it out. And the Blu-ray edition. Yeah. The nice thing about Blu-ray is, look at the Shadow Chronicles, as some of you are aware, has been mastered in high definition. And so now you're going to be able to see, you're going to be able to see high definition footage as it was projected in theaters. You're going to be able to see more flaws than you tell us. So, one of the things that great things about the format is you're going to see it exactly the way it was projected in theaters. So, this is pretty much the ultimate resolution in terms of the presentation, and also because the format has 6 times the capacity of the DVD, we're able to add in more extra features that could not fit into this set. So this is a big piece and this is some of the examples of the materials in this anime style designs. So you're one of those people who can't get enough of the 10,000 in this edition because all that extra footage is. And looking into the future, we also started doing some technology tests towards the end of production, where one of the things that we discovered with searching production is that it's seductive to make it seem as detailed as possible to be realistically modeling. But one of the things we discovered from the process is that it doesn't mesh quite as well with the 2D animation. So one of the tests we did was we took something and we actually did a more primitive form of tune shading. So it had it actually composite a little bit more evenly. Now this is how it actually looks on the DVD right now. But in a second we're going to see a white. We're going to see the white signature effect. So here we go. You okay there, buddy? Yeah, I'm fine. So that's the tune shading approach. And here's the so on the left is the tune shader, on the right is the more realistic shading that we use during the production of the movie itself. So now, one of the things we found is actually less is more. Let me get some hands out there. How many actually like the more realistic shading approach? And how many of you actually like the more flatter tune shading approach? No, it's not as unanimous as I thought. It's interesting just to see like a knee-jerk reaction of the audience. That's one of the things that we're trying to find actually useful in our next production. Okay, last summer, this was our This was going to be our next new big project to drive all the new Robotech licenses. Of course, something happened since last summer. Some of you may have heard the rumors on the internet. How many of you heard the rumors about a company much bigger than any of the animators industry? Show of hands. Okay, it's not everybody says billion-dollar franchises. Well, there's not many billion-dollar franchises out there. And I forget what And so right now, Mr. Tony McGuire is attached as a producer to Robotech, the live-action film. And of course, everybody is welcome to speculate over who he wants to play, but essentially, he can probably pretty much play whoever he wants to play. And he has one of those gifts that he can probably pass for pretty much any age he wants because he ages much more gracefully than most people I know. Now, the other A-list camera, now, all you IMDb nerds out there will say, who has Lawrence Kasdan? Well, he's a big movie like so Joe Grand Canyon, so hey, he might be a good person to play Robotech because he also Empire Strikes Back. Oh yeah! Return of the Jedi and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah! Oh yeah!
Scripting the Robotech live-action film, and I can't think of a better place to be. Of course, everything doesn't happen in a vacuum. We also need producers, guys who get the movie made, and of course, the founder of Oriental, Brown is attached as an executive producer. We have Drew Cabello of the One Brothers who brought the project together. But we get some heavy hitters both. So my question is, who's the team of goals? Well, he gets an Oscar for actually taking on some movies like so he's gotten nominated, he's won it, he's done good science fiction, many of which made over $200 million, such as Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I Am Legend, and Hancock.
I've seen all those movies.
But that's just, that's very, very impressive, but maybe we need someone who's much closer to confident on it. So we have another producer from the team on the project as well. Who is Chuck Rose? Well, Chuck Rose, at first, we were like, but then when we found out what his credentials were, we were really excited to have him on this project because Afro Samurai, 3 Kings, 12 months. I mean, this guy's got anime credentials, and he's got sci-fi credentials. And, well, a studio might say, well, has any of his movies made big money? Because these are smart films. What kind of films has made some good money? So he's actually one of Warner Brothers' favorite producers because he also produces.
Yeah! Yeah! Oh yeah!
Right now, as the production team is coming together, at first we were totally that Warner Brothers was pulling together all the biggest heavy hitters on this project. And so we are totally excited and blown away on this. But, of course, because we're at the beginning stages of production on this project, actually not even production on development, of course, we can't give it credits quite yet, but we can hopefully do the customs. And for the earliest people who are in line, there's actually nice little prizes here for you. So, okay, go ahead.
Before we actually begin, we need everyone to just make sure you ask only one question, no multi-parters, no follow-up questions, and then come here and just pick a prize out of this come here. And then if you have a second question, just go to the back and then wait for everyone else so they can ask first. So let's go ahead.
Okay, so as you talked about, one of the things that tied Robotech fans over along with them for years were the comic books. And I'm wondering if there are any plans for future comic books. The favorite Shadow Box Chronicles was excellent.
We're kind of in an interesting situation where Trailers for Shadow Chronicles was actually a big hit overseas, where right now it's being reprinted at TV in China, and it's also being reprinted in Latin America. One of the things that's happened is because so many people have been looking for it, we found out that on eBay, individual issues were going for as high as $80. And so one of the things we're working with is trying to get more Robotech to be public. One of the issues that came up was, one of the things that did really look at is conflict. What happened was a few years ago, the conflict costs were kind of hard to find. And so when we started reprinting the conflict costs, the first edition was one of the best comics actually had. What happened was at the same time, it just came out and sales did that. Because people no longer needed comics as a surrogate for watching TV episodes. So we're trying to work around that to get more next.
Were there any characters visuals you're going to encounter rising?
Yes, we're working on getting more of the classic characters in there, but we can't give away any spoilers on what happens next.
Can you comment, our interview or Carl music and the Robotech next time?
Carl is coming. Yeah. I would love to be there, and I don't know what Steve is up to, Rob. What do you think? He's probably going to be at
Actually, I'm probably going to be at the Pixar. Pixar? Is that Saturday? Right. It depends if there's a good I'll be there.
They have what the U.S. government calls a time horizon for when they're going to release this. But no, they're not. One of the things they're keeping under wraps is the actual release date that they're planning on. They're keeping that under wraps. But yeah, they're working on. They actually put a high priority on getting this done. So it'll be sooner rather than later.
How many people recognize this?
How many people get this guy? Yes, sir. We were actually working on that before. We actually came close to starting to release some of the other Macross variants, but the main problem is the rights issues. They're still having problems back in Japan to figure those out. So, and whenever that gets cleared up, we have to see more Macross, but we don't know.
Question is how much is the music? Do you know if there's a big difference with like have music be very integral in live action? Like in the series?
Unfortunately, I can't give away spoilers yet. You know, who lives, who dies, who sings, which office gets to be sung.
Like the shirt, by the way? I was a little late, and I was wondering if you had talked about maybe redoing the Sentinels, maybe bringing that as an ongoing like TV show or anything like that.
You know what? He did ask that a lot. One of the reasons why Robotech held such a loyal audience is many of you can attest to this. Is every day we had to run home because we had to find out what happened because the story was so surreal. I mean, this was breaking ground that there was a lost picture of page. But the problem with Sentinels is that when the series got axed, the storyline actually played itself out in comics and novels, which many of them was very effectively read. And so the element of surprise would be gone if they actually went through with that. So what we've actually done is on some of our projects, we've actually taken story elements from the Sentinels and we reintroduced them. And so like Prelude to Shadow Chronicles, we actually decided to cap off some of the Sentinel storylines and actually transition into Road to Shadow Chronicles. And so it is definitely possible that we can do additional spin-offs that means based in the Sentinels universe, but I don't think we would reproduce it exactly as it is. If you try to obviously begin.
Real quick, I just want to say that the guy who plays Sawyer on Lost would be the coolest way broker. Yes, I was wondering, when will the second Robotech animation be coming out?
One of the things that happened is Oh, you're talking about animation, right?
Yeah.
At first, what happened was our animation projects were our flagship projects at Harvey Gold, but of course now, instead of our 400-pound gorilla, we've got our 800-pound gorilla at Warner Brothers. And so one of the things we are doing is we're working with Warner Brothers to coordinate our release dates around what the Warner Brothers project is doing, much like what we see going on with Batman right now. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us. So of course we're going to see some of the release dates get moved around because of that. So, but when we have more information for you,
thank you.
Yeah, most of us grew up in it. With the 80s, there was two series that had a lot in common. But I'd like to know what are the chances, percentage-wise, of ever seeing a Robotech Voltron mini comic mini series?
Oh, like a versus?
No, it doesn't have to be a versus. Just a crossover. Series.
Robotech versus Alien versus Predator versus Alien. That would be awesome. I don't know. It would have to be like Freddy versus Jason. Stories would have to. Well, I want to do that, but it makes sense. Okay.
Would your guess best be for 2009, 10, or 11 for the live action?
Well, we're going to have the right PR department and Warner Brothers make those announcements, but right now, at this time, we can't do that.
Wait, I'm in 6B. Kind of a suggestion because the story's so long and serious.
Oh, they're in 6B also. E and F?
But when they do the movie, they would use like 2 models doing this, and I think this is still in the
Okay. So you're not coming to 6B?
Use DVDs as a
You're not going to be coming to 6B?
fillers or like a backup story. Be a rich movie. So I was just suggest that.
I don't see why not. I think everything is on the table.
See you later.
But since this first one is going to be a big surprise, one of the things I noticed with these projects like Animatrix or Gundam is usually they work better after the first one has already been out. When the universe is not.
Yeah. We need to go ahead and do that.
It just comes down to what the studio thinks is what the model is. All right, next.
So I was wondering how you were doing getting younger magic in group because back there, when I was young, I was school instead of picking up TV for a while. Early down 50 watching. But how do you do that? Or maybe getting.
All right, I'm just going to give you an example right now. After Tim Burton's excellent Batman, they thought, hey, let's market Batman in the future. Batman Robin. And then when Dark Knight is said, screw it, let's make this an adult movie. And it works. So one of the things we discovered is, and having to get with Speed Racer, it's such a big contrast is both for Warner Brothers projects, and one of the tries to target it to kids, even though the audience was very old, because it was a series that had been around for even longer than Robotech versus Batman. They just went, let's go after the adult audience. And so, obviously, we're looking at what's this thing.
Now we got like video screen and movies, like motion controls, higher capacity. What's the source for video games? You've heard established several concepts that is a good any adaptations or any side stories like Battle Cry for next gen consoles?
We had an issue with that. What happened was we had our sole license to TK. And what happened was TK had actually changed hands of the company's ownership and lost K2. And the original game, which was done by TK by itself, we thought was excellent. Innovation, not as successful. And one of the things that we had worked on for a while, until just recently, was getting rights back, which we recently did. And unfortunately, the turnaround time for games is actually 10 years, so it's going to be a while before this will be on this. One of the things that was important was getting rights back in time for live action films, so that any game that we do can also incorporate those works.
guys have a short list with characters or special characters in the movie?
Yeah.
You have novels released, the old Robotech series. Is there any possibility to be on audiobook or on
You know, that sounds really, sounds like a great idea having one of the voice actors do this. But what I is only books that get made into audiobooks are top bestsellers, like Harry Potter or the self-help books. So, I don't know if Robotech meets that threshold. Maybe you might, like live action films and stuff. Yeah. But right now, at this moment, I don't think it's quite up to that threshold yet.
I wanted to ask if you could, basically like it and not giving any specific details, whether the movie is going to be like based on a specific generation, or rather like Human Love is going to be sort of your reimagining of the world has with Sam Love.
Yeah, you touch on to something that people are scared of reimagining. What happened, people who love the Timber Batman, people are kind of scared of it. I think it's overall this reimagining work. It succeeded. Many times readers with better techniques and storytelling, it really improves the original product, even if it might be a little bit dated. And one of the things that came up with Robotech is, one of the problems that we're having is that we're catching up to the future of Robotech. The thing that made Robotech so cool in '85 was I would see what was happening in 1999. I thought I was watching the windows of the future. That was so cool. But then, now that it's 2008, I know that there was no World War III in 1999. Of course, some of those idiosyncrasies come up, and they did that with Iron Man. Originally, Tony Stark was caught by the Vietnam War because of the Iron Man was a 60s series. And when they made the movie, they had to rewrite it. They had to turn Vietnam to Afghanistan. And the underlying story was still there, but the context was made new. And same thing with Robotech. What would have to happen is Warner Brothers has the right to do all of Robotech, the full Robotech story. However, one of the things that would have to happen is it would have to be a futuristic story once again. We'll have to make the context new once again. Of course, 1999 is no longer a date in the future, it's a date in the past, so it would have to be some other near future event. But the underlying story would still be there.
I apologize if this is the wrong place for this question. One of the TV series laws, the movie Island. So it's my projection that might be an abandoned human spaceship, like the Gables. Am I far off on that?
That would be a really big surprise if Lost turned out to be a surprise Robotech franchise. But no, it's not. But you can agree. Sir.
Are you guys going to release the Concubines?
Oh, yes. Actually, we just got a lot more Concubines back in stock a few days ago, so we'll put them back on the store after Comic-Con's over.
The sequel too?
The sequel, I think the sequel is there too. I'll have to double check. There was this big old latte mug. It's like, I didn't even know what the hell. Why did anyone would want to drink so much of anything? But it's like this latte mug that's like this big of a house.
I've got a cappuccino mug. So, since there have been chatterings on the web about Warner Brothers and all that kind of stuff, have any other actors and actresses expressed a passage interest in the
Well, unfortunately, I told the studio after this formal announcements, as to Wall and Cash, we can't pretend all the things that here at this conference. That's the story. That's the cover story.
You've noticed every single, quote-unquote announcement about Robotech the movie has been through leaks or, just spy reports. And we were actually trying to keep this under wraps for as long as possible. But, so far we haven't even had, official announcements outside of
Also, we have in the mezzanine where all fan clubs are organized. We've got the Robotech fan club. This is organized by local Southern California fans. And someone that we're trying to organize to have a here tomorrow is Carl Mason, the film producer of the and also James Guerrero, voice of Rico in the Spanish version of Robotech. And also in the crowd here right now, we have our very own Robotech composer, Scott Glasgow. Where is he?
Scott's over there.
And so I think, do we have any more questions? Because at this point, I think we're pretty much
Anyone got the schedule? We got 15 minutes. All right, we're good. Otherwise, I'm going to be
Anyway, you guys do a little bit for me. You see all these ones come out like Transformers, you make on 80s, stuff, the 80s. I think we all remember our impression of watching Transformers both on Robotech in the studio, and one of those for you, if you see that, don't get it, you feel like that, or something, and you see these movies, like how they change something or how they do something the same, that you think they're important, that inspire them or see that a certain way.
Well, Transformers proved the technology to make it look good. Batman proved deep storytelling to an adult audience, a lot of fun. So I think all the ingredients are there for the success of it.
I have a question about the movie anime movie that you're doing, and it's about Warner Brothers has a new unit for it, not the anime movie that you're doing.
Well, one of the things I just want to say is that when we have such a fantastic project that we absolutely consider that. Now, of course, how much of the contribution we have the live action versus the classic series, how much cross-pollination we have. We can't do that way yet. Thank you. Okay, really? This is something I discussed with, I think it was James Surviving Capital Project. He, unfortunately, the other half of the right but he was, as a very fond member of Robotech, but unfortunately, he's become a wrestling author of the Star Wars novels. And so right now he's making money and making this Star Wars, so a good part of it's time. However, another really good writer from some of the classic Robotech comic book series is actually Tom Hansen. One of the things we'll definitely need is a little bit more material so that they can keep it right now, because one of those omnibus editions Robotech New Generation actually covers the entire New Generation. So if we were going to meet that kind of cases, we need a little bit more than just one.
I think you're right about the live action movie or kind of rising. Do you consider the Robotech Adventures or Manga Adventures?
Not really, because that one was really small. I think people just generally just want to watch it. Okay, well then I think we're pretty much
Now we're getting to
so I think we're actually pretty much wrapped up here. Thank you so very much for making it here.
I'll let the office press, the tattoo, can you come back up here? I didn't see that you had a Robotech tattoo. We need to get a photo of that.
Yeah, sure, all right. Good excuse.
Suddenly, there was a terrible roar all around us, and the sky was full of what looked like huge bats.
all swooping and screeching and diving around the car. And a voice was screaming, "Holy Jesus, what are these goddamn animals?"
Welcome, everybody, to the second installment of Gundam at MAHQ at Comic-Con 2008. Actually, we were going to kind of name this episode the Hurricane Day, as in Hurricane Work Day. If people down in Florida would know this, when the hurricanes are coming, you always get that day off because of the hurricane, because today is actually kind of the calm before the storm. We had a lot of stuff going on this week on Thursday, and a lot of panels and a lot of things because it's the opening of the con. But from past experiences for myself and, just from the lineup that we had to do today, Friday's a little light. So there was some things there that we checked out. But, for the most part, any of the big things, there was only about one or two of them, and it seemed like everybody and their brother was there. So definitely got a lot more picks for everybody. Going to be uploading those when we get back, especially dealing with a lot of the manga, a lot of the anime, and a lot of the stuff, more detailed stuff from the Bandai booth. Got some, actually got to see for myself the first time today in one of the anime viewing rooms is the Gurren Lagann, and ended up buying the Volume 1 later on. I know Soulbro had got to do the thing that he wanted to do the most here, and that was to actually play with his little two paws. What game was that?
Well, it's the
Viva Pinata?
Yes, Viva Pinata. Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge fan. My nomenclature comes from the lat part of it. Comes from Street Fighter. I got to play Street Fighter 4, the notorious new game from Capcom, and it was a lot of fun. Although I got to play for probably about a total of maybe 4 minutes. And,
well, let me ask you this. I know that there's probably a lot of fighting game fans within Mecha Talk and within MAHQ. Just quickly, what are some cool points that they may want to just kind of know from your quick experience with the game?
Well, to me it plays a lot like the Alpha series, or namely Street Fighter Alpha 2. I really didn't get to spend much time with it. I picked Abel, which is one of the new characters, a mixed martial artist character, and the person I fought against picked Rufus, which is another new character, big fat guy in the yellow suit. But it felt familiar. It wasn't floaty, and it was fast paced, just like you would expect a Street Fighter to be. Good. It shows a lot of promise, and I can't wait to play the home version.
But other than that, I know I had checked out a few things. Within a lot of the network booths, especially with Sony Pictures, there was a big thing dealing with the new Star Trek movie, and they're just doing kind of a sneak peek on that. What was it? Warner Brothers had a bunch of stuff with The Watchmen, and there was a little spacecraft there that we got some good picks on.
Yeah, I'm not sure about what's going on with Star Trek, but there's some viral game going on at the con right now.
I actually think that Saturday and Sunday. I actually think Saturday is the big day for that.
Actually, when we were leaving the con today. There was a skywriting in the 6. And I think it has something to do with the game. Apparently, you have to decipher some code and you have to find 6 different people in order to find out what the code really means, to become a part of some kind of construction crew, in order to find out some information about the movie. It seems interesting, but I doubt we'll have time to play.
Yeah. But it was definitely a lot. Friday's always kind of a in-between day, from my past experience of being here. So it wasn't too out of the ordinary, but there was a lot of good stuff. Got a lot of good picks for you guys. We're going to put a few up today, but when we get back, we'll definitely kind of organize, because I think I probably took almost 200 photos today with my camera. So
actually, the grouping would be kind of rough, but when we get back, we can straighten it out. I'm gonna put up a good chunk of them tonight, and you guys can just decipher through them.
But Saturday is kind of a big day. There's a lot of different panels. I think we're going to kind of split up on certain things, and do some things there. We're not going to make any promises at this point of what we're going to see, because anybody that's ever been to Comic-Con knows that it's sometimes very difficult to get in some of these panels, i.e.
Venture
I was
Brothers.
trying to get into Venture Brothers today, and we were there an hour and 20 minutes before the panel even started.
And the mile went about a mile long.
Yeah, I went outside of the convention center, so there was just no chance. And we had actually were in the ballroom the day before for the Robotech panel, and we just definitely knew that wasn't going to happen. And
that's a huge room too.
It's not the biggest room, but it is a very large room.
It's a very decent sized room.
And we were going to do the same thing with there was a DC panel for Crisis on Infinite Earth, and same thing. But definitely myself, I picked up some stuff, a lot of Udon stuff from the Street Fighter. Got a cool book, got some other few things. But other than that, just really went around and finally was able to get a lot of the pictures. I know we put some of them up earlier, but got a lot more detailed stuff, especially with the Bandai booth. We sat there for a while and really got some good pics of all the figures in that Toyama booth there. So, but that's about it. Anything else, Soul Bro, before we sign off here?
Well, I had a quick run-in with a legendary Robotech figure.
That's right.
Carl Masick. I actually ran into him today, and he was really cool. I didn't have much time to talk to him because he was actually leaving to run off to a panel or to head off. But he gave me a business card, and he was really cordial. And he was there for a while signing autographs. I didn't know where he was exactly, but I just happened to walk down to the...
You didn't get his autograph?
I you know what killed me is that I have a book called Robotech Art 1. Big, beautiful book that was printed in 1985 with nothing but line art and story synopsis from every episode of Robotech. And I could have brought that to have him sign. I already had it signed by Tony Oliver, the voice of Rick Hunter. I don't know why I didn't bring it, but anyway, long story short, he was really cool.
No, you didn't have him sign anything? You could have just, I
didn't have anything for him to sign.
Say, my name is Chris. No, just joking.
Oh, Chris, man. Oh, no. That's another story altogether. But,
well, that's cool. That's cool to actually talk to somebody like that.
Yeah, but if anything, maybe we'll get to talk to them in the future.
No problem. But we're going to kind of sign off. Like we said, this is kind of the hurricane day of Comic-Con, kind of calm before the storm. Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be bringing some good stuff to you guys. I know that we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, and it will probably end up killing us, but that's okay. But once again, we do want to let you guys know that, check the blog spot. We're going to try to post some stuff up during the day tomorrow, just like we did on Thursday. And once again, anything that we do record, any of the panels or anything like that, we're going to put all that stuff up once we get back, because we kind of don't know. We want to see what we have first and then kind of go from there, and then we'll put everything up. But once again, just send in your comments through the Mecha Talk forums. Send us any questions, comments, whatever. We'll definitely get back with you, and we'll definitely get back with you tomorrow, and we'll be back here tomorrow night on Saturday doing the same thing, probably sounding a lot worse than we are now. But
it looks like right now episode 14 is shaping up to be probably the most massive episode we'll ever have, the lost episode, no less.
But we're going to be signing off. This is Neo and
Sobro Ryu,
and you're listening to Gundam at MAHQ.